Hi everyone, hope you are doing well. It's Ask the Lawyer here, and today I have 4 crazy stories for you. Please watch till the end to hear my comments. So the first story is about entitled parents who demand their son pay $25,000 for their boat. Yeah, crazy, I know. Let's get into the story. I graduated college 4 years ago, and I rarely speak to my mother or father. Maybe 2 or 3 times a year, and even then it's only for a few minutes. They refuse to let me play sports in high school or have a social life, and they've basically cut me out of their lives since I, and about 75 other people, got a city drinking ticket 7 years ago in college. Since I live about 800 miles away, I only go back to my hometown once a year, either for Thanksgiving or Christmas. Most years, I stay with a friend or at a hotel. Last year, I stayed with my parents. No way in hell am I going back for either this year. Just about 5 months before I graduated college, my parents bought a boat. I know they got a good deal on it, and they have used it a lot. They took it out of the water for the season in early October. I've literally never seen it in person, just pictures from Facebook. Last week, I had texted my father, first contact since March, and let him know I would be able to make it back for Christmas. About a minute later, he called, and over the course of 5 minutes, explained how he and my mother decided since their last child was about through with college, they would buy a boat. The only problem was, they didn't have the $20,000 to buy it. What was their solution? Take out a student loan in my name, of course. My mailing address was always their house through college, so I was none the wiser. Why was my dad telling me about it now 4 years after the fact? Because they can't pay it back. They actually never paid any of it back. They kept putting it in forbearance, but that ran out early this year. Fast forward 7 or 8 missed payments later, and my dad tells me the only reason he's telling me now is because he doesn't want me to bring it up at Christmas, and he knows it's going to default in a month or 2. His exact words were, "If you're going to make a big deal about this, it's best you don't come home this year." He also said about $25,000 is what I would need to pay it off. I hung up and just sat in shock for a couple of minutes. I called my brother yesterday and told him what was happening and that I think I'm going to sue them for whatever it takes to pay off that loan. I still don't know what the amount is yet. I should probably find out by next week. I'm cool with my brother, and he's cool with my parents, and I'm sure he probably talked to them because this morning I got a text from my mom just saying, "Do not sue us." I texted her back saying she would need to immediately pay off the entire loan and show me proof. She texts back that I need to grow up. Obviously, I'm not even going to respond to that. The boat is probably worth half of what they paid for it by now, and with the hours that they've put on it. I don't know if they have the money or not to pay up immediately if I sue them, but I figure I can at least garnish their wages. My other brother called and asked me to hold off a few months before doing anything, that it was crappy of them to do that, but to give them a chance to start paying it off. Sorry, not the idiot, but it definitely runs in your family. Please do this, especially since they were more concerned with you making a big deal of it at Christmas, not the fact that they stole from their kid. Also, it wasn't to make sure there was food on the table. It was for a ducking boat. When you hesitate, think of 2 things. Not being able to buy anything you want for a long time because your credit is screwed. Them enjoying the boat for many, many hours and not feeling bad about it. This update has a happy ending of sorts. Basically, what happened is that I did end up having to make a police report about what happened. My parents weren't arrested, but they were charged with deceptive practice. As part of a negotiated deal, they agreed to become responsible for the debt, and they received 12 months of court supervision. The student loan company removed the loans from my name and made it clear they planned on suing my parents and myself. My parents for obvious reasons, and myself because I benefited from the crime, my degree. My parents and I spoke to a lawyer who agreed that they probably could come after me for at least some of the debt. Our lawyer and their in-house counsel came up with a deal that basically said if I paid half myself, they'd forever give up their right to sue me or try to collect the other half from me. I wasn't crazy about the deal, but it's cheaper than going to court, where I'd likely be found to be jointly liable with my parents for the full $25,000 and attorney fees. I paid my part of it 3 months ago, and it's like I've never had student loans. Nothing on my record at all regarding it. My parents sold the boat for a loss and are making payments on the remainder of the balance. They've apologized to me pretty profusely about it, and I do think they are remorseful. As a cherry on top, my brother told me they opened a credit card in his name around the same time they took out the student loans. He found out after going to purchase a house, and the loan officer asked him about it. That was paid off in full before he found out about it, though. I speak to my parents maybe once a month now, more than in the past, and our relationship is still fairly cool, but not nearly as bad as what it was. Also, I definitely did not go to Christmas last year. I think I will be going this year, though. Edit regarding why I may have been found jointly liable. My parents paid 50% of my rent my senior year of college. I also, unhappily while interviewing, lived with them for half a year after school. They asked for half and wiped it off of my credit forever. It's more than 50% of rent, but I was done with it. I have a decently paying job now and wanted to move on. I did a crappy job of wording it, but they sold the boat for $9,000, paid to the lender. I paid $8,000, a little more than what half of my rent was, and they are making payments on their $8,000. Apologies for not being more clear. Edit 2. Alright, maybe I should have gotten a different lawyer. I just wanted it to go away with no lawsuit. Looking like that was short-sighted. Overall, I'm okay with it. I never paid my parents back for the 50% rent in college. They were just going to let it be. I feel like I've made up for that now. You actually speak to your parents more now than before? What the duck? Especially after don't bother showing up to Christmas if you're going to bring up the fraud that we committed against you. I don't think that I'd ever be able to forgive such a thing. That's the part that gets me. If you think they learned their lesson about theft or whatever, fine. But that doesn't negate the fact that they told you you weren't welcome in their home because you refused to let them steal money from you. They basically said, if you're not my personal ATM, I won't allow you near me. They treated OP like he was disposable, and once he said he'd be useless to them financially, they pretty much told him to duck off. How is that indicative of a loving relationship? I'm 19, and I had my daughter at 14. I got pregnant at 13. It was a terrible situation at first, but I made it work. My mother made it clear from the start that she would give me no help at all with the baby, and I accepted that. I did think she was saying that just to scare me, but when I had my kid, it turned out to be true, and I raised her on my own the best I could, including working nights at a shop every day, a small clothes shop where I could take my kid with me, at 14, so I could pay for her to go to daycare when I was at school, and I got all the equipment and clothes for free or very cheap from Facebook. The only person who helped me was my brother, who was 23 at the time. I am now a university student at one of my country's top universities, and I live with my boyfriend of 2 years. After proving that I could do it, my mom became an amazing grandmother, and now she does occasionally help me out. My 17-year-old sister has been with her boyfriend since they were 14. They are saving up to move out when they turn 18. They have both just turned 17, though. And my sister just found out she's pregnant. She told me first. She told me she was keeping the baby, and she wanted me there when she told Mom, for support, and to remind Mom it's not always the end of your life. So, the time came. She sat Mom down and told her. Mom immediately got pissed. She blew up, saying pretty much the same stuff she said to me, and worse. My sister was crying, but she was standing her ground, saying that she is keeping the baby, and then my sister said, "You don't scare me. I have a better support network than my name." Mom glared at me and said, "Well, I was hoping you would have had a better life than her, but here we are again." I snapped. I told her that I chose to have my baby, raised her on my own, worked my A off, all out of choice, and if my sister wanted to do the same, at least she would have the support of me and my partner, her boyfriend's family, and our brother too. Mom stormed out. She sent me a text later saying she doesn't think I ruined my life, but she wanted to make my sister see teenage pregnancy for what it really is, and not just as easy and romanticized as she sees my life. I was horrified. My sister was 12 and very aware of my situation when I got pregnant. She knows it wasn't easy, and I just feel so disrespected. Am I the idiot? I did get my mom's point, but I feel so hurt. Not the idiot, but I don't get why you are so offended. Having a kid at 14 is widely considered a dumb idea and generally would only happen by an initial accident. No parent would want that for their teenager. My husband and I have been married for 3 years and together for nearly 10 years. He is my best friend and biggest supporter. I really feel crappy about what happened, and I just need to see an outside point of view. My husband's best friend Peter has known him for 20 years. They are two peas in a pod. Peter was the best man at our wedding. He comes over frequently to hang out, and my husband cares for him a lot. I have never liked Peter. He loves to brag about cheating on his girlfriend. He's cheated on her so much that it makes me sick to my stomach. I am very sensitive when it comes to infidelity because it tore my family apart when I was a child. I have talked to my husband about this, and I have chosen to avoid Peter because he talks about his affairs pretty much every time he comes over, and it makes me uncomfortable. It also bothers me that my husband doesn't say anything to Peter and just laughs it off when it comes up. We got invited to a double date with Peter and his girlfriend. My husband really wanted me to go, so I caved and said okay. This was my first time meeting his girlfriend, and we clicked pretty much instantly. We were all having a good time until dessert came around. Peter got down on one knee and proposed to his girlfriend. In that moment, I felt like I had to say something. His girlfriend is so sweet and kind, and the thought of her marrying Peter when he cheats on her every ducking week made me livid. Before she could answer, I blurted out that Peter has been cheating on her for years. The room went silent. To make a long story short, Peter's girlfriend dumped him right then and there. Peter was furious and started calling me names and even told my husband that he needs to control his bee. My husband got into a screaming match with him, and it ended with Peter saying he never wants to see my husband again. I want to feel like I did the right thing, but seeing my husband miserable has been so heart-wrenching. I have even caught him crying. He hasn't talked to me at all, and I know he is upset with me for ruining his friendship. Some of our mutual friends say that I ducked up and I should have kept my nose out of their business. I'm starting to think maybe they're right. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. If I were in his girlfriend's situation and the people around me allowed me to go through with marrying him without knowing the truth, I would feel so betrayed. I think you did the right thing, although it probably would have been best done telling her in private. I would have wanted to know before he proposed to me too. As a woman, I feel like she really did the right thing. It was her last shot before it would have cut the wound even deeper. Imagine being engaged and soon to marry someone and then finding out after. My older brother and his wife have 3 kids, ages 9, 7, and 5. Sister-in-law left work after the second child to become a stay-at-home mother. At that point, it wasn't really an issue in terms of their income, as my brother was making a rather impressive salary, especially for his age. Everything was hunky-dory, and it was working for them. Great. 2 years ago, the company my brother worked for went into liquidation and closed down, meaning he lost his job. He found another job in his field fairly quickly, but it's a lower-ranking job and pays less than half his original salary. This posed a problem for them. They could still afford to cover the basics while his wife continued to be a stay-at-home mom. But there was no longer any disposable income, and the kids and sister-in-law had gotten used to living comfortably. Sister-in-law complained that my brother wasn't providing for them as well anymore, and eventually he took 2 additional part-time jobs to supplement the household income. Working so much has taken a physical and mental toll on my brother. He's lost, by my estimation, about 30-some pounds in those 2 years, and he was a healthy weight to begin with. He also doesn't sleep much and seems perpetually exhausted. He's also begun suffering from migraines since he started working so much. Honestly, he just looks and seems sick as a dog, but sister-in-law refuses to go back to work. Note: kids are in school full-time now, and by her own admission, she just doesn't feel like working ever again. So, to my potential assholery. We were all at a bit of a gathering at my parents' house recently, and a few beverages were had. At one point, we were watching a film and my brother fell asleep. My sister-in-law woke him up and began berating him about being rude and lazy. Bro just kinda sheepishly sat and took it. I, 3 white wines in, got brave and said, if his wife wasn't so lazy, maybe he wouldn't fall asleep so much. She asked what I meant, and I said, You stay at home and do nothing while the kids are at school, and he works 3 jobs to keep you in designer handbags. Bit selfish, don't you think? She took the huff and left. Brother went with her. She's furious at me for calling her out, but I think I was justified. Am I the idiot? Edit. My brother is 28, sister-in-law is 32, and I'm 19. Sister-in-law initially said she was going to go back to work when the kids went to school and backpedaled when that happened. To be clear, when I say she was used to living comfortably, I mean she was used to having an entirely designer wardrobe for her and all 3 children and was unwilling to give that up. 100% not the idiot. She sounds like a leech. Staying at home when your kids are in school because she doesn't feel like working again? Shaking my head. Your brother's a saint, but he's going to go into an early grave like that. Plus, your sister-in-law will only continue to leech off others for the rest of her life, the way she's going. She'll have no pension to draw, so who'll look after her in her old age if your brother precedes her? You were looking out for your brother, but honestly, try to talk to him in private with your parents. Try to show him this is stupid for him to be this overworked. Making digs at her is just going to make your brother's life more miserable. If he isn't the one to put his foot down, she'll never go back to working.